Solace in stories on the screen or on the page. Escape to another world, another age.
German director Roland Emmerich is a prolific director of blockbuster American movies, many with a jingoistic edge that appeals to traditional white, cishet masculinity. He is also gay himself and advocates for gay rights causes. His one project overtly about gayness, 2015's Stonewall, is a complete mess. He whitewashes gay history and has rightly been criticized for it. However, his real success in gay representation isn't overt at all. I believe that in several of his earlier works, from his first film, The Noah's Ark Principle, through a few lesser-known works in the early 90s, through his more mainstream works, up until The Patriot in 2000, he inserted gay subtext into the plots. These were works marketed to the mainstream audience, and he spread gay representation to those who would most need it. Those heavily closeted, who may not even have self-awareness of being gay, but who might become attracted to these narratives for representing a part of themselves.
I found a signal hidden inside our own satellite system.
Today, I'd like to recognize and honor Emmerich's secret gay love stories, problematic though they may sometimes be. You've probably never heard of his early films, but the Noah's Ark Principle has an intriguing homoerotic subtext, much like that seen in later notable films. It is a 1984 West German stylistic ripoff of Alien. It's about Cold War intrigue and a space station that can control the weather, having zero budget to actually illustrate this. Two guys, Max, played by Franz Buchreiser, and Billy, played by Ricky Mueller, spend a long time up in the space station together, and it's implied that they're gay. Max's wife asks for a divorce because they've grown apart. There are plenty of close, friendly interactions between the two, and one loving shot of a male nude. Ultimately, Max confesses his love for his wife, dies, and then Billy screams his name in anguish. One alien ripoff later, he goes back to Earth, and his superior, Felix, played by Matthias Fuchs, suggests that he undress because he's wearing heavy astronaut gear. Billy makes a report, and then he and Felix talk while standing close enough to kiss, like maybe Billy's moving on with Felix now, and then Billy dies and Felix mourns. It's a tragic gay love story that appears to allude to the AIDS crisis, how love can exist for finite periods surrounded by tragedy, and it has overt gay themes. Even then, though, it's still buried in subtext. You have to be aware that gay love can exist, if only on an instinctual level, to even perceive its presence in the film.
Das Ganze war ein Puzzle. Hat man alle Steinchen zusammen, ergibt sich schnell das komplette Bild.
Emmerich went on to experiment with family films and drifted away from subtextual gay love stories until 1990. In 1990, he made a film called Moon 44, riffing on aliens, with the premise that butch male convicts and nerdy teenage boys are forced to work together for an exploitative mining company. It is very much a celebration of masculinity and male interactions. Gay subtext is pervasive, both consensual.
Well, you're a real beaut, Jake.
Man's got balls.
And less so. One convict even has a single earring in his right ear, aka how gay men signal to each other that they're gay. It was especially popular in the gay scene when the film was made. It's a sounding trumpet of this film's gayness to those in the know.
Without these faggots, we don't fly.
The plot has these two groups forming partnerships, with the convicts acting as physical agents flying helicopters, and the teen boys as their intellectual commanders back at the base. It's kind of like Pacific Rim, but all male. Through the course of the film, teen boy Tyler, played by future Emmerich collaborator Dean Devlin, gets really close to undercover cop Felix Stone, played by Michael Paré.
Come on, we're partners.
Stone investigates a saboteur in the mining operation, discovering that it's the dickish prison guard, Psych, played by Leon Rippey. Stone calls him girly, and the two of them fight, Sykes grabbing an axe and going for his genitals. Stone saves the day and stands up to the corrupt boardroom, which includes women wearing suits and ties, looking like they might be lesbians. But of course, they're all straight, you know. There's a Ripley knockoff for the guys to go gaga over. No homo.
You miss, I'll nail your ass.
Uh-huh. This film feels like, censored gay porno. Like, maybe Emmerich should have just made the gay porno that he clearly wanted to. There's an alternate timeline out there where he didn't make Independence Day or 2012, but made the most bombastic gay pornography ever.
I thought your only worry was hard assets.
In 1992, he made Universal Soldier, which is essentially RoboCop, but with the military. And man, it is the gayest, straight male-centric dude bro film I've ever seen. It's shot to lovingly depict the male form at peak athleticism. The audience is treated to plenty of oiling up, and there is high sexual tension between protagonist Luc Devereaux, played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, and villain Andrew Scott, played by Dolph Lundgren. Despite what the straight romance might make you think, the makeup used on the male characters' faces and the pouty way Van Damme holds his mouth emphasizes cuteness in a way you don't usually see with male characters, making them hot on sight, even without their abs visible. Devereaux's love interest, Veronica Roberts, played by Ali Walker, doesn't get the same treatment. There's a part where she feels him up to look for tracking chips, and you can see the contrast in their skin tones, where he's artificially reddened up to emphasize his body and draw the viewer's eye. Typically, you would either see that only with the female characters, or with both female and male characters, not just the men. In one part, Devereaux robotically walks around in the buff, like a gayer version of the introduction of the Terminator. My favorite part is when Devereaux and Veronica hide in a bed with another couple in it, and it looks like they're each having gay sex in an orgy. He even looks ready to perform a blowjob with a phallic weapon at one point. How did anyone ever think this was straight? I've seen some feminists discuss this film as one of the few male-centric films for women. Everything framed for female appreciation. No, it's not. It's for men, just not the usual demographic of men. It's for the kind of men into other men. Unfortunately, this was largely lost in the sequels, which had none of Emmerich's influence. The first one is gay as hell, though.
Where are your clothes?
I have to cool down.
In 1994, Emmerich made Stargate. It centers around the nerdy and slightly effeminate Daniel Jackson, played by James Spader, manning up on a trip to an alien planet with his co-star Butch Air Force Officer Jack O'Neill, played by Kurt Russell, providing an example of manliness. Though Daniel ends up being given a wife by a group of wacky tribesmen, and Jack is shown to have a wife, there is room to view the film as actually a love story between Daniel and Jack. Jack isn't happy in his marriage, Daniel is single, and Jack immediately commands Daniel's attention, and comes to also be intrigued by him. In the context of Emmerich's filmography, we can see Daniel and Jack as something of an updated form of the characters of Tyler and Stone from Moon 44, now age-appropriate. Through the course of the film, Daniel courts Jack's affection, looking on him with loving respect. Jack slowly warms up to him. The relationship is threatened by the arrival of Ra, played by femme gay man Jay Davidson, who tries to steal Daniel away from Jack with a bit of flirtatious domination. But Daniel stays true to Jack. The two men defeat Ra and delight in their relationship before parting ways. Daniel giving him a piece of jewelry, in theory to give it back to the woman he borrowed it from, or to remember him by, in commitment to their relationship. The final shot is of Jack alluding to their relationship not being over as he gates away.
I'll be seeing you around. Dr. Jackson?
It's interesting how similar this is to a flirtatious comment a female love interest leaves Captain Kirk with in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home.
See you around the galaxy.
Emmerich's work is often derivative, so it's possible that that line was a deliberate allusion to a line from another sci-fi romance.
That's okay.
The 1997 to 2007 TV adaptation Stargate SG-1 arguably continued the gay subtext between the characters, Daniel now played by Michael Shanks, and Jack by Richard Dean Anderson, whether or not it was intentional on the part of the writers.
It's going straight to my head. Daniel, for crying out loud, you've had one beer. You're
cheaper date than my wife was.
Enough fans read them as gay that the writers actually intended to make an homage to it. They planned a joke in the final season where an imagined version of Jack and Daniel are posed at a wedding like they might be the ones getting married. Daniel would look around and speculate that to Jack, who would then exclaim, "We're gay?" However, the Sci-Fi Channel was ultimately too homophobic for even a joke implying that they weren't gay, and it was cut. We'll always have fanfic.
You know, if she doesn't show, people are going to think that you and I are...
In 1996, Emmerich made Independence Day, which is kind of like Stargate as an action movie. It's an ensemble cast, but the main character might be said to be Butch Marine Stephen Hiller, played by Will Smith. This character is kind of a redux of Jack and Stone. He's shown to be in a straight relationship, but he also has some close relationships with other men. Jimmy, his Marine friend, played by Harry Connick Jr., goes on a spiel about appreciating booty and gestures with Hiller's booty. Then Jimmy finds the engagement ring Hiller was going to give his girlfriend, and a Marine walks in and thinks that Jimmy is proposing. It's a gay joke, but it's a tasteful joke. The guy walks away like, "Hey man, that's cool. I'll give you your privacy." In the age of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it's nicely progressive.
Hey, don't get premature on me, soldier. We don't light up to the fat lady sings.
I got you, Big Daddy. Let's get him.
When Jimmy gets killed off, and Hiller gets separated from his love interest, Hiller ends up getting friendly with the nerdy hero David Levinson, played by Jeff Goldblum. The two of them run a mission together and help save the day with a nuke and an alien ship, like Jack and Daniel in Stargate. They return to Earth and smoke some phallic cigars while celebrating their victory over the aliens. Unlike the ending of Stargate, Independence Day leaves us with the image of our Butch Marine and nerdy self-insert starting a new relationship. As friends.
Not until the fat lady sings.
Oh, yes, okay.
This is important.
Fat lady. I gotcha.
In 1998, Emmerich made Godzilla, starring nerdy hero Dr. Nico Tatopoulos, played by Matthew Broderick. Like the nerdy heroes before him, Tatopoulos is ostensibly straight, but the more interesting relationship is with a man, French secret agent Rocher, played by Jean Reno. Rocher recruits Tatopoulos to do what the American military will not, and assist in the destruction of the nest that they refuse to believe exists, possibly because of queerphobia. In an overtly queer element, Godzilla is both male and capable of asexual reproduction. To some extent, this was because of restrictions placed on Emmerich by Toho Studios, but he didn't have to go in that direction to do what he wanted. He chose to make Godzilla hermaphroditic. Front and center, a pregnant male that lays eggs and cares for his young. Like Daniel and Jack opposing Ra, Tatopoulos and Rocher oppose this androgynous villain, defeat him and his brood, and go their separate ways, made stronger by their relationship.
Pregnant. A very unusual he.
Emmerich broke from his nerdy hero routine with the 2000 period war film The Patriot. This was much less his own solo project, but there's a gay joke in there that smacks of his involvement. When Gabriel Martin, played by Heath Ledger, tries to court Anne Howard, her protective father pretends to mishear him. At one point, the father suggests that Gabriel is insisting that he's a man, when there's no reason why it should be in question. It adds a subtle queer theme, where we might imagine Gabriel has some femininity that he's pushing against, trying to assert his manhood. Like, he could be gay, in the middle of a straight relationship, where there's plenty of plausible deniability.
I've come to call on Anne.
Of course you call yourself a man.
That ends Emmerich's span of gay subtext material. He went on to make The Day After Tomorrow, which has some shots evocative of the Noah's Ark principle. 2012 continued the Noah's Ark theme, but none of the gayness was retained. Maybe one of his bosses figured it out and told him to knock it off. Maybe he lost his taste for subtext once he found the world had become sufficiently gay positive, with Ellen DeGeneres coming out, and Will and Grace becoming a hit. We can only speculate. What he did manage to put out there was extraordinary for the time period. There is a lot that can be criticized about the subtext. The age gaps of Moon 44 are particularly concerning, and he seems to have a thing for villainizing androgynous elements, evocative of femme-gay men or trans people. But these concerns are ultimately less important than the fact that he managed to tell the stories at all. Roland Emmerich isn't perfect, but he deserves to be honored as a subtextual queer storyteller alongside the Wachowskis with The Matrix. These are the hidden gay love stories queer millennials and late Gen Xers grew up with. Let's show them some love.
We are creators of our own